Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown, this time for UFC 300, the biggest fight card of the year, of the decade, potentially of all time. It is an incredible fight card here, and one that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. Now, this is a very unique card, one that is absolutely stacked from top to bottom, and I'm excited to break it down, but due to the hype of the card and the, let's say, just the scale of what just was produced on, we're gonna make it a bit different this week. 2 videos, instead of covering it all in one, we'll do a betting and full card breakdown video and a DFS video for my DFS players. 2 separate videos. We'll probably have the same intro, I'm not gonna lie. So be sure to check them both out if you're playing respective either betting or DFS aspects. This one here, we are talking about betting in the full card breakdown. So this is a typical one just without the DraftKings aspect. So be sure to check out CoolBet. Be sure to like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to be ready for what is one of the greatest cards of all time. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I am excited to talk fights throughout the whole week. Be sure to check out full content out on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel, as well as on Establish the Run. A lot of work for you guys this week, so happy to break it down, happy to get started, and let's do this. Now, just to reiterate, these are going to be my fight breakdown, my predictions, and maybe some betting angles I have. Once again, DraftKings will be in the other video for my DFS players, but we do have ourselves 13 fights to go ahead and cover. Let's do this, starting with the very first fight of the night. Somehow, the 22-3-1 Deiveson Figueiredo versus the 14-5 Cody Garbrandt, 2 former champions squaring off in the first fight of the night. That is how you tell this card is absolutely stacked. And this seems to be a pretty simple dynamic. You have yourselves the once top the world, once king of the world, Cody Garbrandt, a guy who has had a bit of a fall from grace recently. Since winning the belt at 10-0, he went on a 1-5 stretch. He has rattled off 2 wins since then, but the big concern with him is, although he's extremely talented, his hand speed's there, his grappling's there, his power's there on the feet as well, his durability is not, and that seems to be a big problem, especially at 32, almost 33 years old. He's only getting older. That chin is more of a concern. Deiveson Figueiredo has, had that quadrilogy with Brandon Moreno. He is one of the best 125ers we've seen, a very talented fighter in his own right, but a guy who had a ton of success at 125 and has the frame to move up here and not have problems. He had a win over Rob Font last time. And I do think Figueiredo is a very well-rounded fighter. Good ground game on the mat, very good volume on the feet as well, but he has a good cardio, good pace, and a really overall good ability to go out there and fight the best of his abilities. Simply put, he's a high elite level fighter who's a champion of a division. He is almost as good as they come. Technique, volume, ground game, but even more so power. And that's really what's going to be a determinant in this factor here. Is you have a guy, Cody Garbrandt, whose chin is certainly in question. Figueiredo somebody to definitely go out there and expose that. Figueiredo will walk forward. He is durable enough to take the beat and come his way, and he will throw back with fighting intention, similarly to the way we thought he could hurt Rob Font. I think he can hurt Cody Garbrandt and get a win here. Now, this fight to me is a very interesting one because although I'm picking Figueiredo, and I do think he has more tools getting it done, whether it be being more durable, having more finishing potential, I'm not sure I really agree with the -300 price tag, but I do think when I'm thinking at this fight here, the most likely outcome is a Figueiredo finish. I know Cody Garbrandt is an elite fighter, and he could definitely go out there and strike with Figueiredo, but that's 15 minutes of pure perfection. That is, I don't know if we can get from Cody Garbrandt at this point in time. He was finished by far inferior fighters in Figueiredo. I do think Figueiredo has the forward pressure, the power, and the overall skill set to go out there and beat Garbrandt this weekend. Figueiredo's the pick for me. I'm looking at the KO line at +175. Although Figgy is the older and smaller fighter, more trustworthy in my opinion at this point of his career, and he will my pick to win. Line's wide. If I'm getting anything, it's towards that KO prop. Next up, we have the 31-15-1 Bobby Green versus the 37-17 Jim Miller. Jim Miller got a win on UFC 100, on UFC 200, and here he is on UFC 300. Coming as an underdog against Bobby Green, which should be a really good matchup between, 2 guys who have been around for a while. Now, I alluded to Jim Miller being the underdog and coming straight off the bat. I like Jim Miller here, and I will be playing him some way or another. I just don't know how. I think if we look at this matchup from just a pure metric side of thing, I get why Bobby Green's a favorite. I mean, he's going to be the taller guy. He hasn't been a guy who's been historically good with his hands. Jim Miller's 40 years old. I mean, there's a lot of things that point towards Bobby Green having success. But if we look at the way the cards are dealt here, you have Jim Miller, who has been way more durable than we expect a 40-year-old man to be. A ton of power in his hands, way more dangerous ground game, more tools getting it done. You have a guy like Bobby Green, who is 4 months removed from one of the worst stoppages we've ever seen. A guy who was absolutely lit up, a guy who hasn't been finished in his last 2, and I do think that is a clear red flag for Bobby Green, who, although has historically been durable, is someone who likes to eat punch with his face. I do think the guy here with more finish equity is Jim Miller, whether that be on the ground, whether it be with KO power on the feet, and he is my pick to win here. Now, I completely see a world where Bobby Green has decision potential, landing more strikes, paddling on the outside, and outstriking Jim Miller, but at what percentage? I don't think it's north of 50%. I don't think it's enough to make him the favorite here. I think Jim Miller has more tools to winning. I don't really see Bobby Green having the one-shot power to get rid of Miller. I mean, Miller's been durable, and Green's not a one-shot power type of guy. So I do think it comes down to him having to use that volume and cardio, which we know Bobby Green has, but kind of like Garbrandt has to stay perfect 15 minutes, and we've seen him clip before. Miller does have that power. As well as Bobby Green has struggled against lefties, so all these signs point towards Jim Miller. I just don't know how I'm going to play it. I love the money line. I almost got there. I may even like the finish-only line at -145 for Jim Miller. I mean, he's a guy who has a ton of finish potential in his matchup. Green's not a guy who gets many finishes, and we've seen Miller be durable, whereas we've seen Green finish in his last two. I kind of see the path to victory for Green being a decision win. So if that's the case, give me the finish only Miller. I might get there as well. Or maybe I'll just play the inside the distance line on Jim Miller, because those are pretty nice as well. So a lot of options to go out there and play it. I don't know where I'll get to yet. Make sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo to see where I end up, but that is definitely a side I'm liking. Next up, 25-12, Jessica Andrade versus the 17-3-2 Marina Rodriguez. And what is a very good and closely contested fight. If we have to be completely honest, this may be my least favorite fight of the card, which just shows you how stacked it is as a whole, because this is a very, very good fight. Two top-level girls at 115 who have had a lot of success here, and it's a battle of two very tough Brazilians who kind of bring different styles. Marina Rodriguez is going to be that tall, lanky striker. She's a phenomenal Muay Thai striker. She has very good kickboxing, very powerful and all those things. And she's able to go out there and push a pace and look to break girls. Very good striking, whether it be from distance in the clinch. I do like her overall skill set. She's going to have 3 inches of reach, 5 inches of height here. She is going to be the bigger fighter of the two. And although she's the older fighter, is someone who has had a ton of success in the striking department. Jessica Andrade has been a bit up and down. It was just recently we thought she was done. I mean, she had lost a few in a row. Her chin wasn't there. She was doing the OnlyFans. She was definitely in a weird spot in life. But now she's coming out there looking good recently, looking to back be her true form, and I do think at her peak, she's a much better fighter than Rodriguez. Rodriguez has struggled against grapplers, and although Jessica Andrade has been a primary striker, we have seen her go out there and initiate the wrestling, and I do think she's the better overall grappler of the two. I do think there is an advantage in the striking for Rodriguez. I just don't know if it's enough to, let's say, overwhelm or get rid of the discrepancy of the grappling that Andrade has. So I think it's either Rodriguez picking her apart from the outside, landing the bigger shots, and maybe that's the case if Andrade's heart's not really in it. But if Andrade's heart's in it and she's willing to push a pace, she's willing to go forward, and she's willing to initiate the takedown upside and fight down there, I do think she could be a very dangerous problem here. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to pick Marina Rodriguez. I know I said I stopped saying this, but gun to my head, I think I'd pick her here just with the height, the reach, the trustworthy. Like we know what we're getting from Marina Rodriguez. It is a clear, powerful kickboxing approach, whereas Andrade has been a bit hit or miss. Consistency has been an issue. So getting Rodriguez to go out there and piece her up from the outside. I would not be surprised for an Andrade win. I would not be surprised for Andrade to push the pace here, but I do think the most likely outcome is Rodriguez goes away from the outside in what is a very interesting matchup, but maybe not my favorite of the card. Next up, 14-7, Jalen Turner, 18-5-1, Renato Moicano, and what is one of the sleeper fights of the card. This one is an absolutely great fight between two really high-paced action fighters who are willing to put it out on the line. Jalen Turner, I say it every time he fights. I love the guy, met him in person, one of the coolest, I think he's the coolest fighter I've ever met in person. Very down to earth, and he backs it up with incredible skill set. His frame for 155 is insane. 6'3", 76-inch reach. The guy is an absolute killer. And not only does he have a ton of power, that death touch on the feet, but a very competent ground game. Renato Moicano, Money Moicano, 34 years of age, been out there for a while, but a guy who has just been an absolute killer recently. We know that he has the ability to go out there and wrestle and control the ground game. His submission game is elite, but he's shown the ability to strike recently. He has shown the ability to push through and fight these top-level guys. And when you really look into it, his losses have only come to the best of the best. Short notice, 3 days against RDA, knocked out by Rafael Fiziev, knocked out by Korean Zombie, knocked out by Jose Aldo, choked out by Brian Ortega. I mean, those are 5 competitors of this division that you don't really get much better in. Whereas we've seen Jalen Turner, drop the ball a bit to Dan Hooker, who I still think is very good, but, lose to Matt Frivola, fight close in a few matchups, and I do think that this is a very interesting spot to see where they both are. I know I stopped saying it, but if I had to pick a winner here, gun to my head, it would be Jalen Turner. I think he has the reach, the power on the feet, the more trustworthy striker of the two for sure. But I don't know if it's enough to make it -225. I know Renato Moicano will go out there and push a grapple-heavy pace, the same thing he did to Drew Dober. And in doing so, we've seen Jalen Turner taken down. We've seen him controlled there. We've seen him lose a fight that way. Add in the fact that Moicano is the much more dangerous grappler than someone like Garbrandt. Moicano is a guy who will look to take the back, will be very dangerous from there. I completely see where Moicano can compete. I think the discrepancy in the striking is much less than the discrepancy in the grappling, and Moicano could have an edge there. Now, when it comes to durability and power, you still give it to Turner, but I do think there's a whole other world where Moicano can force the clinch exchanges and really pose problems there. So I am picking Jalen Turner. He's my pick to win, but I think the line's wide. I may even get to a bet on Renato Moicano. I'll definitely be playing him on DraftKings, but check out the other video for that. But he is someone who I think is going to make for a great fight. I do expect to end inside the distance, whether it be Jalen Turner by knockout, whether it be Moicano by submission. This should be a barn burner, and I really am looking forward to it. Next up, 13-3 Sodiq Yusuff versus the 23-6 Diego Lopes. A very underrated fight here as well. Diego Lopes, he got the haircut. He's come onto the scene and he's had a ton of success in the UFC, and enough to make him a favorite here over a very talented and a guy who's headlined a main event recently here in Sodiq Yusuff. It's a very fun matchup here because Diego Lopes will bring a fight. Phenomenal grappler, great pace, showed power last time against a chin again, Pat Sabatini, but has been able to go out there and win over a lot of fans. I mean, I saw him fight live in Nashville and he crushed my Canadian boy, Gavin Tucker. He has a ton of power in his hands. He is a very, very good grappler, one of the best grapplers in this division, but he has his flaws. I mean, not only has he fought a lower level of competition, but he can be stuck on his back trying to force those submissions. He is very hittable and can be outstruck from distance, and I do think there are flaws with Diego Lopes. I mean, there were reasons why he was an underdog to Sabatini and an underdog to Gavin Tucker. Like, although he's exciting and fun to watch and has finish upside at all times, he's not the most trustworthy and people can take advantage of it. And alluding to my pick here, I think Sodiq Yusuff can take advantage of it. Sodiq Yusuff himself is a phenomenal fighter who has been at the top of the division, a ton of power in his hands, good volume, good cardio, has been pretty trustworthy with durability, and has shown the ability to mix in takedowns where he can. Yes, I like Lopes, and the guy with more finish equity is him for sure. I would not be surprised if Lopes goes out there and catches Yusuff in something. Lopes is dangerous, but when we're looking at the majority of times someone wins this, I do think Yusuff's more talented. I think he has more minute-winning ability. When it comes down to the striking exchanges, I do think Yusuff is much more dependable there. And although Lopes has phenomenal ground game, phenomenal ability to create submissions, Yusuff has shown great ability to compete in the ground. He himself can land takedowns and establish top control, and we have seen Lopes lose fights from bottom position. I just think Yusuff has more paths to getting it done. I think he's a higher level fighter here, and I do think that getting him at an underdog price tag's a bit, discouraging. I don't think it's right here. Diego Lopes himself, if he was the underdog, you take the shot on a guy like him because he has finish upside at all time. But the better fighter with more minute upside, I think, is Sodiq Yusuff, and I don't think he should be the underdog. I do have a bet on him here. I do think he wins. I do think it's a great matchup. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if Lopes gets a finish here, but I don't think it's more than 40%, 35%. And if that's the case, I'll take the guy who I think can get it done more often. Give me Sodiq Yusuff. And then her debut here in 16-1 Kayla Harrison versus 15-6 Holly Holm. What a phenomenal matchup. I know people are not going to like me saying that, 42-year-old Holly Holm, a big favorite here in Kayla Harrison, but we have Kayla Harrison in the UFC. We finally get to see her against some UFC level talent here and former champion Holly Holm, and I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I love Kayla Harrison. Ever since seeing her on Practical Jokers, she's the girl who is an absolute killer. She's a beast, an absolute tank, which will be very interesting to see how she weighs at 135 because last weigh in 150. That'll be interesting for sure, but is a very physical specimen, two-time gold medalist in judo. It's just an athlete, and at 33 years old, I do think she's gone out there and shown that she can compete in MMA. Although she is fighting very low level of competition, to put it lightly, she's a very dominant wrestler, very dominant judoka, and is someone who can go out there, establish top control, threaten submissions, and brutalize opponents on the mat. Cardio, potentially in question, but with 3 rounds to work, I don't think she'll have any issues here. Striking is also something to work on, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to be one where she looks to strike the whole time. She has a clear ground advantage here, and I do think that, in the striking, she knows that a loss here to Holly Holm, who herself is a very solid striker in her own right. 42 years old, she's getting up there, but someone who has been at the top of the UFC, is still competing recently, is in very close, fun matchups. Sorry, I lied. They're not always fun. But as someone who can compete, throw a ton of volume, land takedowns on her right, establish clinch control, be pretty physical in her own right, in what is still a high-level WMMA. Now, my pick is here simple. I'm on Kayla Harrison. I think she's inside the distance, and I'm probably going to bet that. Probably actually going to bet her -3.5 because I do see a world where she just dominantly wrestles the whole time. But we've seen Holly Holm choked out. We've seen her taken down. And 78% takedown defense is a pretty good metric here, but she is still someone who is going to be a preferred striker. On the mat, the physicality, the size, the wrestling is no comparison. I do think Kayla Harrison brutalizes her here. And I know a lot of people have said this line's wide. I don't care. This is a showcase spot for Kayla Harrison. She's finally in the UFC. She's probably getting paid a good amount of money, and I do think she goes out there and it's a statement victory over Holly Holm. Everything comes inside the distance. I do like her here. Not really a bold pick at her price tag, but someone who I do think wins at a high clip, and I might have some bets involved on it. I do like Kayla Harrison here. Next up, 23-7 Calvin Kattar, 23-4 Aljamain Sterling. Sterling making his way up to 145, and the former champ here has a pretty fun matchup. Aljamain Sterling has been a guy who has been at the top, had a good reign. And he did well there. He's a very, very solid wrestler. Great back take control. We'll talk about later in the matchup, but also shown some good kicking game, some good striking at distance as well. And he's shown he has good cardio and the ability to fight in extended matchups. His chin, that is something different. being knocked out by Marlon Moraes and Sugar Sean O'Malley is something you get a pass for, but has been a guy who has been able to compete in all areas, and it's going to be interesting to see how he fares at 145. Calvin Kattar, brutalized by the Blessed Ever. We'll talk about him later, but a top fighter of this division. Great hands, great box, great power in his own right, phenomenal takedown defense at 92%, but a guy who is that typical boxer. And it's going to be an interesting to see how Aljamain Sterling fares up this weight class. Kattar's going to be 4 inches taller. He's going to be the larger fighter here, the true 145er. And although he's going to be a bit older here too, he's going to have to introduce Aljamain Sterling to this level here. And we're in another spot here where I'm tempted an underdog. I think I might actually pick Calvin Kattar here. I like Aljamain Sterling, and the one thing I want to say is Aljamain Sterling can need one takedown, one back take, and he can win the round. He can absolutely steal a round that way. He's phenomenal at the back. He can even get submission here upset over Calvin Kattar. I just think that's easier said than done. I think Calvin Kattar is going to have the physicality in this matchup to keep it upright. I think he's going to land the more impactful moments on the feet, and he's going to walk forward and look to crack the chin of Sterling the same way people have done before. I don't think this will be easy by any means, and I do think that there's paths for Sterling to have success here, but I do think Calvin Kattar is a dog, and I do think he will go forward, throw boxing combinations, land hard, and as long as he keeps it upright, should have a very good time. Until I see Aljamain Sterling go out there, control these big 145ers, and dominate them on the mat, I don't think I can pick him here. I do think Calvin Kattar is the better striker of the two. I do think he's able to win this fight. I'm letting the line climb, and I'll probably play it. Fun one, though, because like I mentioned, Sterling could win this one himself too with back control, but I'm going to pick Calvin Kattar here. And then the final prelim, 29-4-1 Jiří Prochazka versus the 14-3 Alexander Rakic. And what is a complete clash of style. You have the technician here in Rakic who will pitter-patter, put on boring fights, but win them. Or you have the absolute killer who does not care about his own mental or physical health in Jiří Prochazka, who will walk forward, look to chop you down like a tree, and who should really, maybe be the father of Trevor Peek, because, they have the very similar styles. They're very dynamic. But the samurai, warrior, ninja, whatever he is, Jiří, is fun. He's a fun fighter to watch. He will push forward. He will throw with reckless abandon. He hits very, very hard, and he is going to be in Rakic's face. If this was a technical kickboxing match from distance, there's no debate that Rakic is the better technical fighter. He hits hard himself. He's willing to point fight. There's a world where Rakic can win a decision or even clip Jiří on the way in. But I do think Jiří's a pretty fun fighter to watch. He will walk forward. He was the champ at this weight class for a division due to his ability to push through adversity and continue to go and want it more than other people. And I do think it can make for a very interesting matchup. On the ground, too, I think Jiří has more to offer than people are able to see, but I think this could be an interesting matchup. Finish upside, I like the durability of Rakic, and I don't like it of Jiří all that much. So I do think there is KO equity for Rakic, but I'm going to take, yet again, another dog shot here in Jiří Prochazka, and thinking he can go forward, put a pace on Rakic, look to clip him at one point, and make this dirty. And in a dirty fight, Jiří succeeds. So this is a clean 15-minute fight. I think, like I said, Rakic is able to have some success, but maybe with takedown, clinches, a lot of volume along the fence, maybe Jiří can clip him. Maybe Jiří can win optics that way. Maybe he's able to go back there and reclaim that glory. Who knows? I think it's a very close fight, and without seeing Rakic in a long time, and without seeing him face the pressure that Jiří brings, I don't know if it's fair to make him a favorite in this matchup. So another dog shot there. On to the main card, 5-0 Bo Nickal, 10-5 Cody Brundage. No breakdown needed here. Bo Nickal, biggest hype train in the UFC, biggest favorite of all time, facing a guy who, last one was by DQ, who's been knocked out in his own right, who's been submitted in his own right. Bo Nickal's going to win this fight. Of course, it's a fight, anything can happen, but Bo Nickal is going to be the quicker hand speed. He's going to be the guy with much better wrestling, and we just saw Jacob Malkoun utilize wrestling and break Cody Brundage. I think Bo Nickal does the same. I think Bo Nickal wins early, and then he continues his quest towards the top. Big hype train for a reason. I don't think Cody Brundage is the type of guy to derail it. I kind of think that Cody Brundage got an easy way out with his DQ win last time, and they're punishing him here, but also giving him a big opportunity. The question is, method of victory? Bo Nickal has hunched subs recently, but I do think Bo Nickal knockout at plus money is a good way to look. I think he's able to establish top control. Cody Brundage might give up the back the same way to shell up, and then Nickal can go out and pound his way out. That is my pick for method of victory, but I could also see a sub. The funny thing here, though, is just the Cody Brundage path to victory. He's a guy who gasses out. He's a guy who does have a ton of power, and I do think there's a world where Cody Brundage can land that knockout shot. I think it's a 1% chance, but that 1% chance pays really well. So if you want to take the flyer on Cody Brundage round 1 KO, go for it. It's a path. I don't think it happens too often. No hot take here. I think Bo Nickal wins at a very, very high clip. We're picking KO this time, but should be one to see Bo Nickal fight on such a big card and continue his ride toward the top. I mean, it's not Cody Brundage on this main card. It's Bo Nickal. Pride enjoyed the UFC, and let's just hope he stays undefeated. Next up, 34-9 Charles Oliveira, 21-3 Arman Tsarukyan. Oliveira back, and what is a super fun matchup. Simply put, I think Tsarukyan has the wrestling and distance striking to defeat Charles Oliveira and win this fight decision-wise. And I do think that is probably my pick. Again, got into my head, sorry. Tsarukyan, I think, is my pick for this one. But at this price tag, this is another very interesting dog here in Charles Oliveira, because I do think the guy with more finish upside, no doubt, is Charles Oliveira. I mean, Armand's a guy who was clipped by Joaquin Silva. He is not perfect by any means and is facing the most dangerous fighter, maybe in the UFC. Extremely dangerous fighter here in Charles Oliveira, who has dispatched of many before, and whether it be by hopping on a neck or catching him in the hands, Charles Oliveira is dangerous. And I do think there is a world where Charles Oliveira can capitalize on the chaos and knock out Armand Tsarukyan and catch him in a submission. Who knows? We're looking at quantifying paths to victory and wins. This is almost exactly like the Sadiq Yusuff and Diego Lopes fight. I think Tsarukyan can control him on the mat, stay safe from top position, and then point fight and be the better striker, winning optics on the feet there. I do think Charles Oliveira is capable of winning this fight at any time, but I do think Armand Tsarukyan is the rightful favorite due to his decision equity, due to his ability to go out there and be a smart cerebral fighter and compete on both the ground and the feet. I also worry that the physicality might be on Tsarukyan's side, so that might be an edge there, but another spot that I'm liking for him here, if I'm picking Sadiq Yusuff, I got to pick Armand Tsarukyan. Similar fight style here. Again, Charles Oliveira is super dangerous. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a finish win, but the pick here is going to be Armand Tsarukyan. I do think he's able to neutralize him here in what is a very, very fun matchup. All right, on to the main three. 25-4 Justin Gaethje, 25-7 Max Holloway. And let's take this breakdown with a grain of salt here. I'm wearing a Max Holloway merch hoodie. This is hung up in my living room. You know, it's a pretty sick poster, right? Got a stats at the bottom, you know. But it shows you where my, let's say, fandom lies. I am a big fan of Max Holloway. Have been for a long time. Favorite fighter in the UFC, and proud of it. Am I scared for this matchup? Absolutely. Justin Gaethje is a killer. If there's anyone to knock down Max Holloway or break that iron chin, Justin Gaethje. He's a ton of power, great leg kicks, great forward pressure, very durable in his own right, and I think it's going to be a war. But this may be my favorite UFC fight of all time. This could be an instant classic, because both these guys are going to throw down, both these guys are going to walk forward, and they're going to swing with fighting intention. Both these guys are incredible strikers with great volume, great pressure, great durability, what makes it a very, very good matchup. To no one's surprise at all, I'm picking Max Holloway. I bet him for 2 units at plus 190. I do think he goes out there and has much more chance to win than this line entails. If we look historically, the guy to have been knocked out, to have been submitted, is Justin Gaethje. I mean, Max Holloway, yes, has been submitted, but is a very iron-chinned, but never been knocked down, very durable in his own right, and I do think he wins that durability battle. Yes, he's coming up in weight here, but it's still going to be the same height and reach as Gaethje here, and not only that, it's going to be the younger fighter who does average more volume. We've seen Justin Gaethje broken before, and I do think Max Holloway could do that. Now, do I think that's the case? No. I actually think it's just going to be a battle for 25 minutes. And yes, Max Holloway can be hit, and I do think Justin Gaethje can land powerful shots, but in a 25-minute striking affair with the volume thrown on both sides, the boxing that Max Holloway has, with the forward pressure he has, who's to say he doesn't win 25 minutes? I mean, don't you want the plus 190 underdog if it is going to go all 25 minutes and what is an absolute war? I for sure would. So that is pretty interesting as well. We've also seen Max Holloway, you know what, wrestle when he was facing Yair Rodriguez, very good striker there. That could also be a path. I don't expect it to be. I expect it to be a stand-up affair, but one where we have 25 minutes to work. I want the pace, volume, pressure, and the style that Max Holloway brings. I'm more than happy to back him in a plus 190 dog ownership here. Gaethje doesn't have the same technicality that Volk did that caused Holloway problems. Gaethje will go out there and brawl, and I want to brawl. I think it'll be a fun fight. This is the true BMF fight. One of my favorite fights of all time, and I will be picking Max Holloway. I do think it gets it done. I am excited for that. Co-main event, 24-3 Weili Zhang, 17-3 Yan Xiaonan for the belt. 2 Chinese fighters here in what is a pretty interesting matchup. Big favorite here in Weili Zhang, and I have to agree. I mean, I'll talk about it in the DraftKings video. I love Weili Zhang. I think she's a very smart fighter. She has the ability to compete in all areas. She's extremely tough and strong. And the big red flag here is Yan Xiaonan's wrestling defense. We saw her controlled and dominate the map by Carla Esparza. And although she's able to reel off some impressive striking victories, I do think that Weili Zhang has a clear path to victory to go out there, dominate her, have a ton of success like Amanda Lemos did, and really cement herself at the top of this division. She is an incredibly good wrestler, very good from top position as well, and can compete on the feet. It's not like it'll be a runaway there. I like the physicality, I like the wrestling, I like the top game Weili Zhang. She's my pick to win. But I don't know if I really want to play the minus 420, minus 500 price tag here. I actually think that there's a world where Yan Xiaonan can land a powerful shot. And that's how she's won fights. She is a very, very good counter striker, a ton of power in her hands, and we've seen her knock out Jessica Andrade, have a ton of power in her own right. I have another way I like to play this one, and that's going to be the under. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 130. I'm on that, and I do think it's pretty simple. Whether either Weili Zhang establishes top control, establishes top position, lands elbows, submits her, I do think she has a clear advantage on the ground where she can get a finish. Or Yan Xiaonan has power. We've seen Weili Zhang knocked out by Rose. We've seen her wobbled as well on the feet. So this is a spot where I do think Yan Xiaonan has a path. I don't think it happens very often, but it's an opportunity, and I do think that KO is live, whereas on the ground, I think Weili Zhang wins this fight from top position, whether it be, you know what, ground and pound from crucifix like Carlos Esparza got, or whether it be a submission. I do really like Weili Zhang here, and I do think it's a very fun matchup. I think Weili Zhang retains the belt, but I'm liking the under here. A good bet I like in this slate. One of my favorite ones, actually, in what is a very good co-main event. And on the main event, 9-2 Alex Pereira, 12-1 Jamal Hill, and you know, this is what ends UFC 300. It'll be a great night. But we get a light heavyweight championship. This is actually the hardest fight for me to pick in the entire slate. I have no idea who's going to win this one. On one side of things, you have the extremely technical kickboxer Alex Pereira. I backed him to get the belt, and now here he is, 36 years old, 2 weight class champ, a ton of success and glory. The guy's a killer, and there's no doubt he has incredible kickboxing skills. Jamal Hill is more of a brawler. I mean, sweet dreams. He's the underdog in this matchup, but a guy who can mix it up on the ground, showed incredible volume, persistence, striking in his run up to the top where he did have that belt. But there are red flags on both sides. First of all, the cardio and maybe even sometimes the durability of Alex Pereira, as he has been knocked out before, and the fact he's getting up there at 36 years old. Or the injury layoff for Jamal Hill. Achilles tear not even a year ago. The guy, that is definitely a big red flag. You haven't really seen many people able to come off of it, and I do think that's something to take into account here. When we're looking at this from face value, I do think the better striker here, point fighting wise, technicality wise, is Alex Pereira. But Jamal Hill is definitely someone who can walk through adversity, who can strike in his own right, very good boxer in his own right, and who could potentially make some takedowns. You know, the fact that I trust Jamal Hill's cardio better, I think I trust Jamal Hill's durability better as well. I do think he is a very likely winner in this matchup. I do think he has a very good chance to win. I wouldn't even mind him on DraftKings. We'll talk about in the other video, but I do think he has a chance to win. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if I can rely on him at this point of his career after the layoff, after the Achilles tear. I have to take the better technical kickboxer here in Alex Pereira. I'm very tentative to do so. I was on the fence about picking Hill here, but again, favorite saying, gun to my head, I'll take Alex Pereira. I think he is the better kickboxer too. I think he can counter-strike, land damaging shots. I mean, without seeing Jamal Hill be an aggressive wrestler or really be as explosive coming off that Achilles tear, let's see if Alex Pereira can retain his belt here. I do think he's able to land more damaging shots, and he would pick to win in what is a phenomenal card. But that'll do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. UFC 300, biggest card. Super pumped about it. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section down below. Let's go through my quick picks. We're taking Alex Pereira, Weili Zhang, Max Holloway, Arman Tsarukyan, Bo Nickal, Yuri Prochazka, Calvin Kattar, Kayla Harrison, Sadiq Yusuff, Jalen Turner, Marina Rodriguez, Jim Miller, and Davidson Figueiredo. Got 5 underdogs on this card. I think it's a phenomenal card. Ton of champions there, ton of trustworthy fighters. I do really like that here. What's left for me this week? Well, check out the DFS video if you haven't. Check out the Best Bets video sponsored by Kuba out later this week as well. And let me know if there's anything else you're missing. I put out a ton of work over there with an established run with Brett Apley. I'll be doing a ton of guest appearances on other shows this week. Check that out. Show some love. And feel free to message me on Twitter at GamblesGordo. My full slate of bets will be posted sometime this week on that Twitter. So check that out there. But DMs are always open, or comment section down below if you do want to talk fights. Biggest card of the year. I have never been so excited for some. And hopefully you guys are able to go out there and succeed in your betting endeavors thanks to the knowledge I was able to put out there. So wish everyone the best of luck. Enjoy the fights. Enjoy a phenomenal UFC 300 card. And let's make some money, guys.